for the Sitka First Nation. And prior to us approving the agenda, we've gotten the calls to action. We have goals 11 through to 15. And we're talking about that. Ethan, did you? Is there one of these that you'd like to highlight? Oh, I see. Okay. So mostly is in education, I think, is what I remember. Yeah.
Maybe when we look at number 14, maybe there's something there with the language and culture where we can incorporate a little bit more of the language, signage, all of those type of things. So I think when we look at these number 14, something that would act on, in not in short order, but something like that. We can do some good things. Short-term goals.
Okay, any other comments? Like you, because we're doing it at the RD as well, you have, and we're in a different, different spot in the 94. And so, it's good. Okay, the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you. Is there any addition? Okay, seconder. Okay, there's no additions or deletions. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, administrative reports, community services.
So, Mayor and Council, our next three items are our monthly departmental reports. Each of the directors is here to speak with you on behalf of their department. If there are any questions or comments regarding their reports or the activities of the department for the previous month.
Question: the concession stand isn't operating right now. Is there any discussion? I know we're having provincials here in the next month. Is there any discussion of any type of person be able to run the concession, like coffee or chocolate bars or a food truck there at all or anything? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I've talked to actually a couple different. Actually, last weekend we actually had the food truck come over and they were parked outside. So that's something that I'm looking into doing for provincials, just so that there's a place for people to go get food. I've talked to the Nightingales who have ran the concession before, and they're looking into maybe coming back. I've also connected with Marty Flores, who's got about just running it for the weekend for provincials. So that's a possibility.
Okay, if there's none on community services, how about the building permit report? Anybody with any questions on that?
Clarification if we could.
Yeah.
Darren, there's a startup I have on Dixon. I didn't know if that was included in the previous year.
Yeah, that's been included in the 2021.
Wildfire Airport.
Just finalized.
So can I ask for clarification of that? They started and they don't have a building permit.
Yeah, so the interior work was just slab cutting and
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Public Works report. I see the picture there of the snow blower. Does that mean the snow blowing machine is all the new one up and going?
So, Mayor to Council, the snow blower there is the old one, which you see, and the attachment for the John Deere for our front end loader is fixed and it's operational.
On the-
Clement, we have street lighting on there. I'm just wondering if there's something that can be done before we get into the midnight sun. To drive around and look at how many lights are out in our community. And then maybe you do that anyway, but there seems to be a few, one on the corner of Hamilton, and Loop, and, one down Vanderview Drive. And that's just the two that I know on my way home. But I'm just wondering if we can't get somebody to go take a look at them and then get them down and then get them. Nothing major at all.
So I guess the question, what's the best way to do that? Because I noticed that there's some on Dominica there too, you know, that it's also dark kind of thing. And what's the best way of doing that now?
So Mayor and Council, the best way that we've done it the best way that we do it is just do night observations, just to see which lights are out, and then we try to get on them as fast as we can. We are limited to just go do it on a daily basis, so we have to check that out.
Aren't all the wooden poles, aren't they all BC Hydro? So they're the ones that do those, eh?
They would be the ones that fix those lights or repair them, correct?
But the metal poles are ours.
Correct.
So like, are there any on streets, metal poles on streets other than Osprey? Or all the rest Hydro?
Have to look and see, but I believe that is correct. There are some off of Burrard that are wooden poles that are hydros.
Yeah, most of them are Hydros, very few are our.
Just then you get down to Victoria and then they're metal.
Any other questions on the public works? And for announcement. Go ahead.
Well, sure, I'll speak to it. It's, I think this community and we've supported our industry as much as we can. But at the same time, I think we've gone to government over 10 years and, been looking at how to slow consumption because you knew that the end was coming. This isn't the end, and I think this is a positive step. My concern is going from 1.9 million cubic meters to 1.3, which is about a third of their quota. That was about their quota prior to the beetle epidemic. So, but it also means 1/3 less trim ends for V1. It also should mean 1/3 less shavings and sawdust for pellets or our agricultural industry, and it's 1/3 less for the chips and the pulp and paper industry. That doesn't include who's not going to be harvesting that 600,000 cubic meters. So there are impacts, but I think long term, get some of those answers from CAMP or others of the downstream negative, that would be good to understand from them. How does that affect the pulp mill, the trim blocks, the pellet industry, all of those type of things. Just a 50,000 foot look at this.
I'm gonna go, because I was gone last week and back to our CAO, you talked to BC economic guy, Brad McRobert. Okay. Are these the things like exactly what Councilor Prinkle asked is what we need to know is what does that mean for the whole community? We've been told 70 jobs, which is only, is only 20% of the workforce out there. And yet they're cutting out 30% of the fiber. And I guess to us is so how do we negotiate or stick handle ourselves all the way through that to understand what the real impact is to the community is?
So through the mayor to council, at this stage, it's still very early in the closure process and trying to pick up the pieces as we transition out to the reality of a mill shutting down. And I don't have answers as to what the impacts to the downstream producers are going to be. However, myself and Brad McRoberts from the province, out of the Rural Development Division, will be meeting with Canfor to talk about some of those impacts. What it means in terms of direct job losses, indirect job impacts, what Canfor might expect for downstream producers to lose out on the fiber supply chain in their operations, and utilize that as part of the information that we're going to need as we form a transition task force to start connecting all the different stakeholders in the community in terms of future retraining needs, future job needs, and identify diversification opportunities going forward for the district of Vanderhoof.
So I guess to me is just, so we're sure, once we get that information where we are now, then will we then turn to College of New Caledonia? And I know Troy Morin was out of town last week when he got back to me. And then decide what we need for training. So I guess it is, at what point do we start applying for training? And I guess to me is also to our MP, Todd Doherty, start applying for it, because I'm hearing a lot of people saying, gee, I thought my child would get a job at Canfor this summer, university, thing. And at what point do we start applying, making sure that we have funding for, students and stuff like that? Because I think we need to start almost doing the shotgun approach of applying for funding, as many places as we can to get through this. We don't know what the impact, and that's what I'm hearing from you. We don't know what the impact is at this point. So we better apply for everything, so we're covered when.
So at this time, I don't know the full scope of the answers. We are meeting with Canfor tomorrow afternoon to talk about the immediate concern, which is the employees that have lost their job at the Canfor mill, and about what transition needs that specific group has going forward. And then from that, we'll be identifying with CNC and Work BC opportunities for reskilling that workforce, for mining opportunities in other sectors, and trying to mitigate the impact of the 70 job losses. As for the training needs, we won't know that until we know how much demand within that 70-person workforce there is going to be for retraining. So until we meet with Canfor, I won't have solid answers as to the exact demand for training dollars that will be coming out of this event.
So to follow up on the 70 job losses, they had dozens of vacancies out there. So I think the question to ask Canfor, and maybe you're already there, Gerald, is that how many are taken up by early retirement? How many are retirement? How many are vacant spots that were never filled? And what is that actual impact of 70? Is it 70 jobs? I don't know if it is.
Well, they assured me that it wasn't when they called.
Yeah.
That they had not been filling jobs for some time at this point.
So that would be, and I think once, you and Brad sit down and figure that out, if it's 20, 30, 40 jobs that are impacted, then that sort of sets the tone, or whatever, maybe it is 7, but we need to ask those questions. But again, don't forget, you should be reaching out to the WP, because if you've got 1/3 less trim blocks, that's the question to ask, right? Is if there's less material going to that, what's the impact for them? So that we're not only speaking for Canfor, but we're speaking to whoever they send material to that have jobs in our community. So just
Fair enough, and they're out their contracts also.
yeah, who's the logging contractor that they're going to?
I asked that question when they called that day, and they said they certainly weren't anywhere close to that. And they said that they had been looking for, a lot of people out there in the bush up till now. So I think, that's going to even be probably a tougher answer to come up with that question. I know I've talked to one of their loggers and he called last week and yeah, he said there's no change in their work plan going forward, and they had just finished their meeting. So I don't know, but I'm sure it has to have an effect. It has to have an impact.
Got to trickle down somewhere.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes.
So just one other item to bring to the council's attention as well. Another piece of this transition is the $500,000 that Canfor is making available to the district of Vanderhoof as part of the support for transitioning from the loss of AML. And Canfor has asked for some input from council as to if there's community projects or initiatives that could be financed with this $500,000, or some ideas about how this financing could be utilized. So whether that's a couple small projects that get financed by this funding, if we look at using these dollars as seed funding for other projects that are grant contingent, or other opportunities that may arise out of the provision of this $500,000.
I really think we should almost have a separate evening meeting, to discuss that, and we should do it, kind of as soon as possible, that we can get a Monday night. And I think we could come with the idea, because, the last thing we want to do is, I think of what I'm hearing around council, is just leave a trust fund, thing. We need to, there has to be something, yeah, we've done a skateboard park already. We've done, lots of things, but there's got to be something else that would be a thing to attract and retain people into the community. And whether it's another trail system, in addition to the bike park,
Bump park down by the bump park down, or pump park, sorry, down by the skateboard park. But, it's got the on the bikes and go up and down on them, and it's really popular. I'm serious, it's a really popular thing right now.
I think that'd be good to have that brainstorming session separately, right?
I think, because I've never heard of a park
Is it
before.
bump or pump? I can't remember.
Pump.
I thought it was pump. Pump park. I think that's what it is.
But,
I was thinking pickleball.
pickleball, and, we've got the ball diamonds on the back burner too, so.
I think, I would really ask you to look at our schedule for the next available Monday night and book about hour and a half, 2 hours, where we throw all the ideas and on the table and say, okay, what is it that really would, what I think to me is, I think this park by the skateboard park would be great. I think pickleball would be great. I think baseball diamonds would be great. I think there's just a bunch of things.
Yeah.
The soccer dressing rooms, I think.
Available Monday or
Through the mayor to council on that note as well, we're probably gonna have to get off the Monday cycle. So next week is the regular council meeting. March 7th, we have a special meeting to deal with the capital budget. 14th, 21st, and 28th are the remainder of our regularly scheduled meetings. So I would suggest that if we're going to be looking at Mondays to do this, it would have to be during the day. Either that or we look at later in the week for this meeting.
You think it needs to be earlier rather than later, is what you're saying?
I think to start the brainstorming of these ideas now, while this is still fresh, would be advisable.
Okay, Councillor Frankel, and then did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
No, I don't.
I didn't know how much of a rush this was. Like, I would take the $500,000 and put it in a reserve until we figure it out. And if it's not until June, we don't figure it out till June. There's no need to rush, I don't think.
I think,
Or are they wanting a program for this year?
So as of right now, no financing has been contributed towards the district of Vanderhoof. Part of the conversation we'll need to have with Canfor is how the funds will be administered. And ultimately, Canfor's involvement in how those finances are utilized. So that'll be part of the conversation we need to have.
Councillor Lozey and then Councillor Murphy.
No, that's fine. That was my question. It was rush.
I think sooner is better than later because our terms are coming to an end here in 8 months' time. I think we'd like to have something done before we exit out the doors.
And if it's going to be something like a park at skateboard park, that can only be done in the summertime. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah. So what about having the meeting a little bit earlier than our regular meeting? So a 4:30 to 5:30 meeting like we did today, rather than 5:30, like trying to integrate it into our regular meeting.
Yeah, that, like, if we can find time before the regular meeting, that would work just as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just a caution on daytime meetings. There's times that I struggle to get to the office at certain times. Let's keep that in mind. Kevin's got the same issues as us, Ken. So keep that in mind when you make meeting schedules.
Does 4:30 work?
Or fix mine.
That's
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah,
doing.
so that's what I was thinking.
For me, but Kevin's open.
on Monday I can make that work. Okay, good. Is that good enough at this point?
Yeah, so I'll work with staff to try and find a Monday at 4:30 time slot for this meeting to occur.
Okay. Electric car, electric vehicle locations.
Through the mayor and council, there's a recommendation before you, recommending the relocation of the level 2 charging station. And also looking at a potential upgrade to a property on Columbia Street to support the direct current fast charging stations that BC Hydro is providing to the community. Background information supplied in the report, and Chad and I are here to answer any questions council may have about this report.
So just a point of clarification, I'm just going to Google it because I was thinking when I was reading this. A level 2, how fast can you charge up a car?
So level 2 stations are 6 to 8 hours for about an 80% charge.
6 to 8 hours.
Correct. They're slower charging stations that aren't really designed for community, but are more so designed for if you have your vehicle and you drive into a town for a fairly long visit, or multiple charges along multiple stopping points. So, for example, going from Prince George to Terrace, you'd be stopping every 1 to 2 hours to charge your vehicle for an hour to get enough juice to keep going.
So the thing is so at the pullouts, at like the pullout at, whatever, Clucas Creek here, are they a level 2 or are they a higher charge?
I'm not certain. I would on a guess assume that those are direct current fast charging stations, and those are the 30-minute to full charge stations. But I can get more information about that if that's of interest to council.
I'm feeling the level 2s. I would check it out.
How about at Fraser Lake in their, like in their shopping center area? I see there's a bunch of charging stations there. Would they be? Like, I guess to me is how much use is a level 2 if you have to take 6 to 8 hours to fill it up?
Yeah, with all due respect to that, I'm not prepared to look at a level 2 anymore. It's like buying this laptop and a year from now, it's gonna be a POS. So, you know what I mean? Like, to me, again, we're looking at outfitting this place with the best technology we can because it means the most to us for technology. If a level 2, 6 to 8 hours, what are we doing? It's just, but why aren't we getting the best charger that charges in whatever it is? I just,
So through the mayor to council, just as a reminder for background on this, these level 2 stations are being procured through the Community Energy Association. And this has been about a 4-year procurement process.
And I'll just, don't hold your breath because the RPF process is not.
and but I want to go back to what you just said, Gerald, and this isn't a knock against staff. It's just that the technology, you said it's a 4-year process. And here we are when we started on this process, level 2 was the big thing.
Yeah.
And it's not. So we need to figure out.
So how do we get a direct charge? You know, like that we can charge up in 30 minutes.
So first and foremost, BC Hydro has one that they've offered to the community, and they need the location for it.
Okay.
The downtown location they were looking at didn't pan out because of lack of phase 3 power to the location they were looking at, and also some other utility conflicts from our municipal utilities. So they just need a location. I've provided a preference that station be located in the downtown just to support traffic going into the downtown and off the highway. Right now, there's only one property that they're considering that works for that. And that's why the recommendation for looking at our municipally owned parking lot on Columbia Street East is in front of council. Just to give BC Hydro an alternative site that has access to phase 3 power. And also potentially improving a parking area to give another option for off-street parking that's public. Now for the level 2 station, I don't know how flexible at this point Community Energy Association is going to be. I think given that their initiative is primarily funded by federal and provincial grants, they're stuck with level 2 stations to actually go and install in 2023. So I wouldn't necessarily say Vanderhoof should be pulling out of that, where we've committed about $15,000 towards this initiative. We can look at district-owned or at least procured through BC Hydro direct current fast charging stations, but I don't know what those stations are going to cost.
My question was gonna be, and then you said something about limitations as to where we could place them. I'd like to understand what the limitations are and because what we want to do, it goes back to what Councilor Franco was saying. These are ways of drawing people in through the region. People are coming through with their cars that need particular types of charging. They're not gonna sit for 6 or 8 hours. Might hook in at the new VCC, or they might want to hook downtown somewhere. Where is that location going to be? So we need to find out what the limitations are and how much they cost, because I think it goes back to what you're saying. Let's put our own in. I mean, process that Councilor Boutre's looked into, it sounds like it's, and I agree with you, we don't just want to walk away with nothing, but it's not going to be our answer. It's not.
Well, we're gonna have people sleeping out there. Is that what we want is to be known as a place that people are sleeping there all night long because they have to charge up their car. You know, and
Entertainment out there, charge them some money. I don't know.
you know, like the thing is, I don't think a level 2 is something that we should be looking at. I think, get one level 3 and then whatever it is. So it's a direct charge one.
Can't be 100%. I know what you mean, but
And to install too.
Just to deal with the question of limitation, the biggest limitation is going to be the availability of 3-phase power. So if you're on a street and you look up at the power pole, if it's got one line, that area is hooped. If it's got the 3 lines running over top on the bells, that's going to be typically 3-phase power.
So is Columbia Street 3-phase power?
Off the top of my head, I would say yes, but I'd have to confirm that with BC Hydro.
the 3-phase power runs right out to within 2 kilometers of Silverberger Mills. So we've got it.
The lines through town, it actually comes straight down Wiley, I believe, so that's 3-phase going straight up, so it's gonna be pretty darn close. They could get it over, like, it's on that north-south, there's 2 lines, right?
The exciting part will be is that this goes back to the Canfor, if they're not using all the power in A, how much does that free up for our system? Right? So if they've taken down A, how much power is that gonna save that stays up in the three-phase power so that we have more to utilize? So there's no, I don't think there's any issue with power, but it'd be good to hear from Hydro.
So I guess to me is so are the only places that you think are viable? Because we have one time we talked about Riley Avenue here in the Co-op parking lot. So you didn't sense that was a place to as an alternative site, you know.
Yeah, so if council goes to page 5 of the PDF report, that's where we start attaching maps of our utility systems. And if you look kind of towards the left, there's a green line going up to East Stewart Street, where Riley Avenue is, and that's a 250 millimeter PVC line in our sewer system. Yes, sewer system. And then the next page is our water system. And that line is a 200 millimeter PVC water main. So both those mains are about midpoint of a typical 80 to 100 year life cycle. I'm just assuming straight line depreciation, that there's no maintenance issues, that nothing happens to these mains going forward. If there's ever an issue and we have to excavate, having level 2 charging stations creates a barrier to those mains that our crews would have to work around, including the underground conduit to provide service to the charging stations. So this site actually might not be ideal for the drive-through charging stations that we were looking at for Bradley Avenue back in August.
I don't know. Are you, as council, is anyone interested in working to get the level 2? You know, I guess to me is yeah. Is there any downside by, you know, the biggest thing is I think we need the direct charge one.
I agree with that, and I think the spot here would be.
Maybe. The only thing with that location is that if we spend on this building at any time, that might be our parking lot. Right, or
Yeah, but how many spots do you need for the charger? Two spots, 3 spots? See, that'd be a big hindrance. I don't know.
I'm interested in working on this. I would love to see us have a fast charger, and I think I agree it needs to be downtown. It's what we're trying to bring people in, right?
Just to point another thing out, if you go to page 10 and 11 of the PDF document, there's actually layouts from BC Hydro showing mock-ups of the 2 types of stations. The first with the 4 parking stalls is the drive-through style station, and that's BC Hydro's stated preference for these stations, because they want these to look and feel sort of like a gas station. The second is the pull-in charging station, and this is a charging station that Houston is getting it from BC Hydro, adjacent to their downtown. This is something that BC Hydro isn't keen on pursuing, but they will do if site constraints don't allow for the drive-through style.
You said Houston is getting this? So
Correct.
would you be able to get some costing?
So for Houston, they're getting BC Hydro to install their direct current fast charging station. I can ask BC Hydro for costing of what these typically cost.
You know, be useful information.
What's so there? No.
move on to level 3. Level 2. Simple, do you want that in a motion or what are you looking for? I move we look at level 3 charging, so direct charging stations, level 2 is old technology. Second.
So one note to council before, like, just as part of the vote and consideration, I know this is very much investigatory. Part of the implication might be that we may have to pull out of the level 2 initiative by Community Energy Association, which we do have a contract with them for. I don't know the implications of pulling out of that contract at this time. But that's information we can bring back to the table as part of the reporting out on looking into level 3 stations.
I would be interested to know if within that contract with the Community Energy Association, if you could upgrade to a fast charging station, like rather than pull out of it, is it possible to upgrade to a faster? Because we still getting the benefit of a charging station.
Suggested to them many times.
And it's not, okay, sorry, okay. And yeah, pull out.
Yeah, like, on that note, if we make that comment, may not be the only community make that comment.
Exactly.
So it may gain traction, and we may
Okay.
have to revisit, say, hey, maybe this is a good idea, so I wouldn't drop that.
Okay.
No, that's a very good.
So, should we vote on this first thing, or do you want to amend it to add in and ask to see if we can upgrade those level 2s to it? Is it a level 3 that's a direct charge?
Yeah.
What was a level 1?
12 volt. It's not. Well, we got that on the map. We have a level 1 station on the map because we probably plug our car in.
Over here.
Yeah.
But they're level 2 stations out of Clipper. Yeah, and
That's a long time to sleep on.
and Fraser Lake's level 3.
They've got like 4 there,
Yeah.
it looks like.
We don't want them to take.
Okay, so the thing is so we have a motion that we apply for level 3s. And should we add into the thing that we try to get from this organization to upgrade from the level 2s to the level 3s, or is that convoluting it too much?
Through the mayor to council, I think if we're looking, if council passes a resolution to investigate opportunities for a level 3 station and stays silent on the level 2 station for now,
Yes.
I can still put in the request to CEA and still be investigating the direct current fast charging station.
I'm just gonna put, another thing we might do though is reach out to like the CLGA and some pressure on associations to upgrade, so it's not just one community, right? It's
Where level 2 is being used most is place of work.
Reasons, yeah.
You're there 6 or 8 hours, you gotta charge to go home.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
the question there is, what was the motion that was answered?
That we get chicken dinner next. No, that we investigate the level 3s.
Sorry. Okay.
All right. Our next report comes from the Corporate Services Department. The recommendation is that council pick the orientation of the donor plaque for the options presented. Our communications officer, director of community services, and approving officer are here to speak to the report and any questions council may have.
Yeah, I would question, when do we want the signs made?
Through the mayor and council as soon as possible. Because of how long it will time to actually be made and delivery of materials as well.
Yeah, but, okay. Because I saw one of the options is one of the vendors, if you're doing the wood one, would be one of the schools in School District 91. And I know that our school's looking at having something similar to this put into it. So it'd be nice to have a local school be involved instead of one from another community, since it is our community's building. So that was my question. If you need it now, I mean, these things are made instantly, like they don't take very long to make.
Yeah, so I reached out to the shop teacher at the high school here. He directed me to the shop.
Because he doesn't know about the funding thing right now. 'Cause I wasn't aware you're asking questions.
Yes.
Being involved in the pool, I think we all were at the end, and we used different types of, I'm a fan of the abstract. And so, I just, it gets a lot of comments over there, hopefully mostly positive. But it's, I would look at something like the example of the abstract, and that doesn't help you with the final whatever, but I would, over there it was fish. I don't know what it would be over, there, maybe it is pieces of wood, but something like that is unique. Because everybody's gone in and seen the one that's organized beside it with everybody in white behind plexiglass. We want to be unique.
That's
It's a unique building, let's make it a unique abstract.
Different, if you put different species of their area with
Yeah,
different levels or something, that'd be kind of neat.
maybe it was fish over there, maybe it's wildlife over at the other one.
I wonder if most of the people came here in our area for the agriculture end of it. I guess to me is, I would love to, we did the fish over there because it was a pool and water and stuff like that. I really would like that, because I just think the fish were a great idea, and I think to do something that, kind of brought it back to the fact that the museum site, and whether it's, you get a cow for, whack your name on a cow for this much, a sheep for this much, kind of thing, kind of thing.
Why don't we, and I know,
When you were saying species, I was thinking wood species. So what about different wood species because I like the abstract as well, and I like the wood. So different wood species, because anyway, that's the option.
if it could, to be, maybe Counselor Young could facilitate it, and have to facilitate it quickly. Maybe not only if we decide abstract, but maybe that's something that we could get the society to be involved in, because they haven't quite.
I'd appreciate that.
And so I would give them the ideas of farming equipment, farming animals, trees, wildlife, give them some of that stuff, and then, so.
A cross section of a tree,
Sure.
And bring it back to staff and see how that.
If I may, Mayor Council, the reason why there's a difference in how we place this is in comparison with the VCC. The VCC had many more donators or contributors as to where not the VCC, sorry, the Aquatic Center.
Got it.
But the VCC has very few. They're large contributions, but they're less than 10. So to try and categorize them out, might actually just be like a section of pieces versus a combined donor plan.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, so that's the motion that we're
still like the idea of investigating what types of shapes, et cetera, because when I look at the one, there's a model, sort of the last one. And it's really just a collection of the logos and things, and I don't like that as much as I would, just personally. If it was something, some kind of shape or whatever it is, and they can still have their logo in it, but it's not just, it just looks like advertising instead of something that reflects the integrity of the building, that's all.
The case before that, I think looks wonderful, right? We've got one species.
One species.
Yeah.
But if you want the last one, that, to me, that's so tried and true. If you want one before that, yeah, that's very nice, different colors, styles. And there's, just take a few away from that, it would be more, less, you said, less than 10. So we could have a few of them, different shapes. Rank them.
Tree up on the wall, the whole center, tree by tree.
Any cars?
Something. Again, I would just,
Postcards.
I think you could just throw it out to them, and there could be some ideas pop back up and come back to staff soon, as soon as possible, if you'd like.
we need a motion to move with the abstract.
Would you like,
So through the mayor to council, I guess what staff are, what we're looking for is if council likes kind of a layout or idea, we're looking for that feedback. As well, if there's any groups you want us to consult with to develop ideas around sort of a general idea without getting too specific. We'd like that feedback as well as to which groups you think we should be engaging with to recognize them on these plaques.
so did I hear that our preference is to deal with the abstract, and that we would like to engage the Historical Society to help us to come up.
Make that motion.
Second that.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'm one question. NCLGA is coming up soon. I don't know who's planning on attending and stuff like that. When do we have to know who's going to NCLGA?
I don't know the answer for that, but we can get it to you after the meeting.
Yeah, if you could before the next meeting, because we need to decide who's going, and I think that was the question he asked.
Normally, we look at hotel blocks, but we've been 2 years of virtual, so I don't think people book hotel blocks anymore. So that would be keen to get.
It would, I guess to me, it's just to understand what the logistics are of it. I think everybody's quite new, not knowing where they fit. So if we could, kind of get some idea, because once everybody decides, because it's the first weekend of May.
36.
Yeah, so it's only 2 months away.
Where's it at?
14 John. Okay, can I have a motion that council hold an in-camera meeting immediately following the adjournment of the February 22nd. Committee of the whole meeting, that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to the community charter and discuss negotiations pertaining to new municipal service and negotiations with other levels of government under sections 91K and 92B. Further, that all persons other than the mayor, councilors, and pertinent staff be excluded from the. All in favor? Carried. And have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. All in favor? You guys want to just keep going?